Alrighty, last couple examples for this section. So we're asked to sketch the graph of r equals 1 minus 2 times the cosine of theta. I'm going to give you some suggested theta angles to use. So, I didn't mean to zoom out, sorry. Let's start with theta of, 0 is usually a good spot to start. Let's do 0 pi over 4 pi over 3 pi over 2, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 4, pi. I'm going to kind of crowd myself here, but that's okay. 5 pi over 4, 4 pi over 3, 3 pi over 2, and one last one, 7 pi over 4. The next one after that would be 2 pi, which would just be right back at 0 again. So, starting off with this, we're going to plug these into the formula. Sorry, it's not letting me right on the edge here. Let's try this. Okay, so first one, we got r equals 1 minus 2 times the cosine of theta. Now, of 0. Equals 1 minus 2 times the cosine of 0. You can type that into your calculator, you can look at the unit circle, but the cosine of 0 is 1. So it ends up being 1 minus 2 times 1, or 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. Now, for this one, I'm actually going to graph these points as we go. I think in general that's going to be beneficial for all of us. So, facing the 0 radians, so facing that way, we have to go, this would be positive 1, positive 2, positive 3 in that direction, but we actually have to go negative, so we're going to go negative 1 in that direction. So we're going to be right there. Our next point, if we do r equals 1 minus 2 times the cosine of the next theta value we're using is pi over 4. We got 1 minus 2 times, if you look at the unit circle, the cosine at pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2, which, after we simplify that, we end up with just 1 minus the square root of 2. Now, that's not a nice number. We're just going to use a calculator to approximate that. We're going to say it's about negative 0.414. It's really hard to figure out exactly where the square root of 2 is when graphing, so we're going to do it as negative 0.414. So, facing in the direction of pi over 4, so facing this direction, we got to go, this would be positive 1, but we got to go in the opposite direction, so this would be negative 1 here. But 0.414 is less than halfway, so we're going to go approximately, or just a little less than halfway. Now folks, I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to try to do a better job of this. Connect your dots as you go. So our first dot here, we're going to connect to our second dot. Now if we keep going through this pattern, if we plug in pi over 3 into that same formula, we end up with 0 as our radius. So we end up back at 0 here. So we'd be facing pi over 3. So we'd be facing this pi over 3 direction here. But we're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to go positive 1, positive 2. We're just going to go 0 out. So we're going to stay right at the pole there. And we're going to connect that dot there. Let's keep going, just plugging in these values. Again, plugging in pi over 2, plugging in 2 pi over 3. The values we're going to get for our radius are 1, and let's follow that up. So at pi over 2, we're going to be up at 1. So if we're going to face this angle here, this direction here, we're going to go 1 up. And we'll connect that there. Next up, at 2 pi over 3, we're going to go 2 out. So at 2 pi over 3, again, using a calculator to help us out with this, so facing this direction, we're going to go 2 out, so we're going to have a dot right about there. And that'll connect. Oops, sorry, that shouldn't be a straight line. We're going to try to draw this as a curve. And my drawings are not always the best in this, so try to do your best to make it a curve as you go. 3 pi over 4, when we plug that in, we end up with 2.414. So kind of using that same decimal that we had earlier, that 0.414. It used to be a negative, now it's 2.414. So facing 3 pi over 4, we're going to go a little over 2 away, so a little less than 2.5. So right about there, we'll keep this curve going here. Plugging in pi, we end up with a value of 3. So at pi, we'll go 3 in that direction. Connect that dot there. At 5 pi over 4, you'll notice a pattern here, 2.414. So facing 5 pi over 4, we're going to go a little less than 2.5 away in that direction. Connect those dots. Sorry, my drawings are getting a little sloppier. 4 pi over 3, that's going to get a value of just 2. A nice convenient value of 2. So we'll draw that dot there. We'll keep connecting. 3 pi over, sorry, where'd I go? Yeah, 3 pi over 2, we get an output of 1. So at 3 pi over 2, we're back here. At 7 pi over 4, sorry, let me connect that. So 7 pi over 4, we're at negative 0.414. Remember the negatives, oops, sorry. The negatives are always kind of the trickier ones. So we're effectively facing 7 pi over 4, so facing this direction here. But instead of like, this would be a positive 1, positive 2, we're going to have to go in the negative direction. And it's negative 0.414, so we're going to be approximately right a little less than halfway in that direction. And that's going to connect there. And if we were to go to 2 pi, it would end up being the exact same value there. So it's got this weird shape. It's got kind of like a loop inside of a loop. I'm going to pause it here and we'll pick up the next example in the next video.